Hello, this is Craig Pembroke of Craig's Mind, and got to thinking, probably hardly anyone is gonna actually take the Deep Roots project seriously unless I elaborate. So I am gonna give the full overview of what I have thought of to put into this show. Now, this is also gonna be a kind of a trigger warning for those of you who are sensitive, because I'm a huge fan of Higurashi, and it has a lot of gore and stuff in it, and so part of Deep Roots is gonna have that. Now, if you want to skip to the good part, in the description below, go to season 2, season finale, and that's when everything starts to get good. But for now, I'm gonna progress from season 1 to season 2 to the season 3 and 4, because I'm thinking 4 seasons would be enough to tell the story. So beginning in season 1, we meet Morse and Tyrone. Morse is my stand-in. Morris was in prison for 5 years at the age of 25 to 30 for looking up child pornography, which is, again, my stand-in. So, I mean, I never was in prison for that, but it was 7 years of a lot of crap. Anyway, going off of that, then we have Tyrone, who beat his girlfriend, and that was 3 years ago from the present story. And then we have Dax and Tommy. And Tommy is, like, Tommy was busted with drugs at some point, but since it was weed, it has since become legal. And so he doesn't really have any point to being at Deepwood, but he stays anyway. And he has become kind of like he's become spiritual. And then we have Dax, who murdered someone, and they were young, and so that's why he's at Deepwood. Deepwood is a asylum, an abandoned asylum, and the story is called Deep Roots. So it explores, in a sense, like the Deep Roots is the logo, but it's the what do you call it, like definition of the like it has greater meaning because it explored the roots of the issues that each of these individuals has. Now, so that, again, overview. So we get Nancy, who is in charge of Deepwood, and so in the fourth episode or two, I already explained like part of the fourth episode in the previous video, but part of staying at Deepwood is Morris finally admitting to what he did, and that would be the end of the fourth episode. But then going off of that, so Morris and Tyrone, they're two different people, but they start like a podcast together. But no. Tyrone already started a podcast, and he has like maybe 100 viewers on average, but it's a very small group that watches him, and he talks about like sports and all those stuff. He's really into like sports video games, and so Morris like finds common ground in like they both like video games, but Morris is more like World of Warcraft type video games. Morris also likes anime, so he also has a figure of his favorite anime, much like I have a few figures of my favorite anime. And So again, Morris is a representation of me. So they do a podcast together. That's part of it. This is all like through season one. So one of the episodes is actually gonna be uh, Tommy decides to have Morris, Dax, and Tyrone try like safe mushrooms or something, and it it doesn't go well for all three of them. But I mean, Tommy takes some too, but he is completely fine. Like he doesn't have any of the like bad effects that the other three are having. And what happens with the other three is they each like they each have like an apparition or whatever start to bug them during this trip they're having. And so Morse's would be a silhouette of a little girl. Tyrone is his father figure beating him up. And Dax is, well, again, this is what I have thought of so far. I haven't really thought in depth about every single thing. The episode will focus on basically Tommy helps guide them through this, like, all three of them do the bad trip, and later he's gonna be like in that same episode, like they're gonna like it's done in a playful way and a funny way. It's not like a serious way that they like start just calling Tommy like a god because again it's just done in like a playful way. Like if you think of The Road to El Dorado, that old movie, uh, they play Tommy up as like a god, but it's all like it's not like serious. It's just like kind of a funny back and forth way. So after this, another episode is gonna be them at like a party or a rave, like around episode 6 or something, and we get introduced to one of the big like key components throughout the entire series, and that is a drug or substance called moth powder. And basically, what this moth powder does is it's an aphrodisiac, and the rave or the party or whatever that is hosted by one of the ritual people in the family, not family, in the community. So ritual kid, I think I named him Jim. But so the party is hosted by Jim, who like kind of introduces the moth powder into the community in at this party, and like it. So it's an aphrodisiac. It before like everything gets too wild, Dax, Morris, Tommy, and Tyrone all leave. But like as the cops are showing up and like starting to put an end to the loud music or whatever, something dramatic goes on during it, and they decide they're gonna get out before it gets too wild. Now, in the follow-up episode, uh, we see that some of this moth powder actually got onto Morse's clothing, and so the next episode is gonna be dealing with Morse, because so there are two computers that like they use for the podcasting. And that's like one is Morse's computer and one is Tyrone's. And so Tyrone actually walks in on Morse at his computer masturbating to the figurine that he, not the figurine, but the hentai of the figurine. And like, it's his favorite anime, but this moth powder like zones you out completely or whatever. And so again, it's done in a more playful way, where Tyrone is like, really, you're doing that here? And so, what is it? So, in this episode, we're actually introduced to Nancy's husband, which is Roy, and he kind of like just shares his wisdom with Morris about like I'm not gonna be like, okay, this is straight bad, don't do it, but it's more like a I don't know, because what ends up happening is like this begins Morris like doing it multiple times throughout this episode, but it's over multiple days. And Tyrone at some point like gets fed up with it and brings in Roy, who is Nancy's husband, to talk with him about it and to like kind of settle the situation. So it can either be settled in that episode or it continues on, and it's like something that gets brought up later on. But um, well, I don't know. I'm not sure where we're gonna go with that. And then what's the next part? Uh, so the next part would be the season 1 season finale, I guess. And we find that Dax is being troubled by some guy that comes to Deepwood to bother him. And Morris has a tendency to like always want to help people, which is a big component that gets in the way. And Morris is also the character that I've developed the most during this. So the like I mean I have developed all the characters, but Morris is just the main. But so Morris tries to go help Dax by confronting the guy that was bugging him, and he finds, well, he doesn't really find out, but he finds it odd that this guy is actually calling Dax a woman, and like there's a scarf or whatever, or again, I'm not entirely sure of the entire plot of the season 1 season finale, but at the end of it, we do find out that Dax is a woman. We do find out that Dax killed someone. Like, Morris doesn't know any of this. Tyrone actually has to uh, step in and like tell him some stuff. But Tyrone is also mad that that Morris is trying to help people when they don't want the help. And so what Morris finally finds is like he finds Dax like thrown up in a toilet or a sink or something because she is actually pregnant and has morning sickness. And this will bring us into season 2, which is over at Roy's place, which is across the lake from Deepwood, at a place called Underwood. And so season 2 is gonna be a lot like season 1, but more focused on like women and like their felonies and what can happen to them. It's kind of like a woman's shelter that Roy is running, and Roy is not like, what is it? Like he kind of like is the normal old man like teasing the women, but he's not into that. I mean, he has Nancy, and they're both in their like 60s. But so that is, and season 2 is also my like least developed season, that because I don't know much about what a woman will go through and what kind of issues that come up with them. Now we go in, let's see, do we? Yeah. So we start at season the season 2 season finale, which I do know really well. But so basically, one of the women at Underwood is named Sophie, and we briefly see her during the party rave thing from the fourth season. And I mean, she's like kind of introduced more in this season, but isn't like fully introduced until like the season 2 season finale. And so she got hooked on the moth powder stuff, and she like takes a little of it. She doesn't take a lot. And the thing is, so like the season 2 season finale begins with, like, we know that Rory really likes Halloween, so like almost like an entire year has passed, and Roy really likes Halloween, and so he always goes all out. And we know this from like a past episode, where Tyrone is probably telling Morris like, you should see these decorations that Roy puts up and whatnot. But instead, what we see is Roy frantically like boarding up the windows and of the main facility at Underwood, and then taking all the women that are there, like that are housed there, and we kind of know each of them. I don't know how many, but we kind of know each of them and what they did and so forth. And he takes them into a like a safe house that is there. And then we see the Sophie character that I mentioned. Uh, she actually had beaten one of the women with a bat, and she is kind of like stalking the premises. And so that's why Roy has done this to keep them safe. But so then like this is like the opening sequence, and then we like zoom out of Underwood, and we see like how it usually is. Then like the screen shakes or something fuzzy goes on, but then we see that like all the windows are boarded up and something bad is going on over there. And then, so going more into Sophie's part of the story, uh, earlier on, she was requested to like come home and take care of her younger sister, Juliet, who is 10. Now, she does that, but her parents go off on like a business trip or somewhere, and so they'll flying out. And what ends up happening is, because Sophie is addicted to this moth powder stuff, like she's taken a little while in her own bedroom at her old home. She's usually staying at Underwood, and her sister comes in, sees that she is taking this drug, and like the sister knows it's a drug, and like I don't know how, but the sister knows it's a drug, and the two of them start fighting over it. Like she doesn't want her sister taking the drug, and the sister really doesn't care enough to like not take the drug. And so the younger sister gets a face fall of this powder, and that is a very bad thing. But in the commotion, Sophie leaves the room and locks the door behind her, telling her sister, who's still in the room, that it's safer for her this way. And like, so Juliet tries to bang on the door or something, and then Sophie goes to leave and actually heads back to Underwood. Well, Juliet like starts banging on the window, like trying to get out, and then, so as I said, it's the moth powder is a very intense aphrodisiac, and so after a while, with Juliet having like a face full of this overdose. Basically, she overdoses on this, and so we basically, after a while, she like stops banging on the window. She stops banging on the window, but like there's already blood starting to cover the window. Like she was trying to bang it that hard and like break it, but she gives into the aphrodisiac, the pleasure, and um, so we're probably gonna like just see her face most of the time during this sequence. But like the aphrodisiac like is so strong at some point it just nullifies any and all pain, and she is like continually trying to find the pleasure from it, but she is finding none, and it just continues to escalate to like she is like clawing herself now, and like blood is getting everywhere and stuff, and like we finally like see her face like show pleasure, but the thing is like that is when she is dying. Like she kills herself by mauling herself to death because of this moth powder. And then so we like zoom out of the window like to the front lawn, and then we see some like ghostly figures of like her first steps, like getting onto the school bus for the first time, riding a bike, and then we see it transition back to like the normal setup. We see the blood on the window, the Halloween decorations, and Morse and Tyrone have been asked to check up on Sophie, and because in the fourth season, or maybe early on in the second season, Morse had a like Morse gave Juliet a ride home because her parents forgot her at some baseball camp or something. But so where were we? Morse and Tyrone show up, and they see that the door is open, so they're kind of like in a rush, like they're frantic, and they go inside. They find that Sophie's door is locked. Well, they haven't actually been inside the house before, so they don't know where anything is at. But they find that Sophie's door is locked. It's on the first floor. I think it's only a one-bedroom house. No, one floor, one floor house. But so they like break down the door, and they find Juliet basically dead, lying there. Uh, Tyrone is the one who calls the police to get them there, and Morse is about to puke, so he actually tries to find a bathroom or something. But he does pause momentarily because he sees a photo of like the family when they were younger. At this time, Juliet wasn't born, but he sees Sophie when she was younger. But so he finally does find a bathroom and throws up in the toilet. But and the cops arrive, and so the rest of season 2 season finale is just like finding Sophie and figuring out what is going on. And what we find out is Sophie has, in a sense, kidnapped Dax, who is well into her pregnancy, like it's close to the time of the baby being born. And Sophie is, so we also find that like this is there's like a cult in the town, a cult in the community. I don't know if it has a particular name, but it has been around for decades, and it kind of just all like stopped because of Dax. So Dax's story is heavily involved in this because Dax actually killed the um, like the ringleader of the entire thing because of because the cult is heavily involved in the moth powder and the aphrodisiac, and so what is it? So Dax killed the guy that is known as the All Father, which I really love that name for it. So the All Father is like the leader of this cult, and he is killed by Dax because I think the main thing of the cult is gonna be just like free love, so that equals sex, like 24/7 with whoever, whenever, and it's funny Dax who like that can't take it because she is part of the cult and kills the Allfather, and that's kind of when the cult ends. But now uh, Sophie, who was also part of the cult, is trying to somehow gets in her mind that Dax is gonna give birth to the reincarnation of the Allfather, something like that. And so Sophie kidnaps Dax, and they're somewhere on the Underwood property, or they're in the dump, which is deep underground military base. And we'll get to that in a bit. But where was I? So I can't remember where I was at. But we're also in the season 2 season finale. We're also introduced to 5 other characters that are gonna uh, like help them along in trying to like figure all this stuff out. Um, but I think that's the end of the season 2 finale. I can't think. I went I went on a tangent and I forgot what else I was, or if there was anything else. But either way, the Allfather dies by Dax, and now Sophie is thinking that Dax is pregnant with the reincarnation of the Allfather and is keeping her captive, and then they find them, and then they put Sophie in prison, and like Dax is free to go, and all, like it gets settled. So now we go into season 3. Season 3 is gonna start with like not Dax, with Morse and Tyrone like trying to cope with the trauma of seeing Juliet. It's it's not a laughing matter, but I just find I ignore my laughs. They have no bearing with what I say or what I'm talking about. It's just, I guess, like a tick. I don't know. I don't think I have Tourette's. Whatever. So season 3 would be like dealing with the fallout of season 2 finale, and Tyler and Morris dealing with the trauma of seeing Juliet. Um, but so after a few episodes of them like just like dealing with it, like a lot of time passes. I mean, it's still like probably springtime during this, like winter has already come. It's springtime. Dax and not, why do I keep not Dax? Tyrone and Morris trying to do more with their podcast stuff, like trying to get it more promotion, like big. Maybe that's saved for season 2. Like at the end of season 2, like they tried to do something to really like get more people to watch them, and it works. Was thinking they could Morris would somehow go live while he's playing with himself, but I don't think that would like I mean it would get a lot of views, but it's not a logical thing, so I don't think we'll put that in. But then with so season 3 is all about well, it's gonna be about like Morris um uncovering more of his connections to this cult that there once was. Uh, they find out things like it spans back as far as the 1960s. That's when it kind of started, and there was like an All-Father before the All-Father that Dax killed, and so forth. Um, but the biggest thing comes from when Tyrone and Morris have a nightmare, which, again, like throughout season 1 and 2, there have been incidents, instances where Morris has been visited and plagued by different things, and one of them is again the black silhouette of the small girl that keeps visiting him. And at some point on season 2, like he wakes up from a nightmare, and Tommy is there, and like Tommy is like pulling something off him, but he can't see it on like Tommy is a enigma. He sees things that no one else can see, and so like again they playfully see him as God. And so, but in this episode, it's a really bad nightmare, and both Tyrone and Morris like face the nightmare head on instead of like running away. And so what in Morris's case is he like for some reason he thinks the like black silhouette girl has like ash on her face, so he like wipes it off, and he realizes that this girl is Sophie when she was younger, and and that only comes into play because he saw the portrait of the family early on in the season 2 finale. Now, what he realizes through this is that there are parts of his own memory that have been uh, that he has purposely forgotten. Like he can't recall them. Where him and Sophie did very inappropriate things for their age, uh, when they were both younger and like still part of the cult. Now this also means that Morris's mom is a part of the cult, or was a part of the cult, but she got out. She kind of explains what she remembers about it and how Morris was uh, like born through orgy. Again, ignore my laughs. But so going from that, what is it? So anyway, Morris somehow Morris then is now like obsessed with the Sophie girl, and they develop a very toxic relationship where like Morris is completely submissive to Sophie. And so a lot of season 3 is exploring that kind of dynamic. And by the end of season 3, like I don't know if I want to have Sophie killed off, or if I don't know what is gonna like result in the end of season 3. But I do know that during the nightmare sequences, again, Tommy is completely unfazed by any of this. Like, even though he is, like, supposedly having a nightmare, but no, what it shows for Tommy is him just out looking like a very serene vista on top of a cliffside, and this, like green alien blob thing coming up to him, kind of surprised that Tommy is unfazed by the nightmares, or the whatever the green alien blob thing is trying to do. And so Tommy is like thanking the thing for helping his friends. And in season 3, that is actually gonna, probably at the end of that episode, Tommy is actually gonna leave Deepwood because he thinks like his job is done, or like, I don't know. But so the funny thing is, so when we see Tommy leave, he is gonna be walking by the, like, he doesn't have a car, he just has like a knapsack and what's in it. And so he's leaving, he's walking down the road. And so throughout this whole thing, we continually see the title card. Like, that's, like, there's always something going on in the background of the title card. But we also have the tree that shows the Deep Roots logo. So Tommy is gonna look down at the tree that has the Deep Root logo, and whereas before, like, no one sees anything in it, Tommy sees the Deep Roots logo and chuckles to himself, like, wondering how long that's been there. And then he just walks off, and I don't know if we see Tommy again. So then we have the season 4 stuff. So season 4 picks off. Oh, wait, no. Season 3, like the season 3 season finale ends up with the entire town getting under lockdown because the military has come in and they're trying to cover up the experiment that involves a like a less intensive thing of the moth powder. So the military gets involved and they lock down the entire city or entire community. Now, in season 4, we like it more like we season 4 is more about exploring the abandoned dump, the deep underground military base that is left over there, and only Morris and Tyrone actually know its location because everything else has been destroyed. Like, the military thought they wiped out the place completely, and like the experiment that our father was doing, who was part of the military, was completely done and settled with. But the dump is still like around. It's abandoned, but it's around. So Morris and Tyrone are exploring the dump and trying to figure out like what is going on, and like trying to learn more about the cult that took place there. And they actually find out that both Nancy and Roy were once part of the cult, and a lot of the Order citizens there were a part of it. And they then begin to like suspect them of like something, and it ends. There's again more stuff I need to fully develop, but season 4 is gonna end with basically the entire town is gonna be filled with like a gas form of the moth powder, and the Order folks are gonna what is it? they're gonna purposefully allow themselves to like basically OD on the crap. And meanwhile, Nancy in particular like sacrifices herself for this cause, because so during the all 3 seasons so far, leading up to season 4, she has been like learning and absorbing Tyrone and Morris's podcast. And the thing is, it has gotten really big. And so she and Roy and a lot of the other old folks decide they're gonna hijack the podcast and display the military experiment, which basically what it was, to the entire world through the podcast, because again it got big. And so like Nancy's gonna die on this, but like it like the entire uh, community is engulfed in the moth powder. Well, Tyrone and Morris are in the dump trying to find the remains of the R-Father, because that supposedly he supposedly had like a lockout key for the vats of the moth powder gas that could like stop it, but they go ahead and release the gas and so forth. And so I don't know if it's like it will humiliate the military, but it's not like I don't think that's a big enough like payoff to warrant that. And so I'm kind of fumbling around with what is the actual payoff, like what is the end result of doing this. And so, and Roy is like controlling the security cameras around the place. So I think, well, there's also the movie. The movie idea is basically gonna involve Morris, Abby, who is Dax's daughter. Abby is about 8 or 9 at this point, and then what is it? Like Morris's stepbrother or something. Again, it's hard to like try to revive this cult, but I think that's it. So, but that is the overview of Deep Roots. That's what I wanna try to have like shown, like want people to see, because personally I like it, and it is a big like if you wanna if you wanna know the like complexity of like what goes on in my mind when I'm like completely bored at work, like I basically I basically escape into my stories and just like think about my stories while I do the stupid mundane tasks at work to just pass the time by. And so that is Deep Roots. Like, share, subscribe. I am trying to, I guess, pursue Warner Brothers in making this like a reality. Uh, if you like it, definitely share it. Maybe someone can share it with the Warner Brothers executives or whoever is in charge. And I think, yeah, that's it. So, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Join my Discord server or message me on Discord, Facebook, Twitter. Do what you do, and that's about it. So have a nice day and goodbye.